Jax Lorne wiped the grease from his hands and squinted through the rain-smeared window of his small orbital workshop. The colony above the planet was a tangle of metal towers and blinking lights, orbiting silently like a mechanical city in the sky. Space was quiet tonight. But the hum of engines and machinery from the lower levels of the station never stopped. Jax liked it that way. He preferred the company of machines over people. They never asked for anything. Never argued. Never judged. He had been working all day repairing a freighter's failing engine. By the time he finished, the artificial sun was dipping below the colony's edge, casting long shadows across the metal platforms. The smell of ozone and oil filled the air, a comfort to him after months of living in the scrapyard. He packed away his tools and started heading back to his tiny quarters when something small and wet moved at the edge of his vision. At first, he thought it was just a piece of trash blown by the wind. But then, he heard a faint sound, a soft, almost whining noise. Jax froze. The scrapyard was usually empty at this hour. He squinted, trying to make out the shape through the rain. It was small. No bigger than a cat, with scales that shimmered faintly under the lights. Its eyes, wide and glistening, stared up at him with an intelligence he hadn't expected. A tail curled nervously around its feet, and a tiny wing drooped awkwardly at its side. Jax took a cautious step closer. "Hey, you lost?" he asked softly. The creature tilted its head. A soft, pitiful sound escaped its throat, almost like a mule. Jax's heart tightened. He had seen plenty of animals in his life, but nothing like this. Its scales were a deep emerald green with hints of gold that sparkled faintly. Its mouth opened slightly, revealing tiny, sharp teeth, but it made no move to attack. Jax crouched slowly, holding out a hand. "I don't have much, but I can share some food." The creature hesitated for a moment before slowly approaching. It sniffed at the scraps in Jax's hand, some dehydrated rations he had saved from lunch, then quickly gobbled them up. It moved with surprising grace, despite its injured wing, and seemed to relax a little as it finished. Jax laughed quietly. "Well, you're hungry, huh? Guess that makes two of us." He looked around. The rain was falling harder now, bouncing off the metal surfaces. The scrapyard was empty, except for the two of them. Something about the creature felt familiar, in a strange way. Maybe it was the intelligence in its eyes, or maybe it was just that Jax had never seen anything so helpless before. Whatever it was, he couldn't just leave it out there. "Come on," he said, standing up. "You can stay here for the night. But don't get too comfortable. I don't have much room." The creature followed him, stepping carefully over puddles and debris. Jax led it into the small corner of his workshop, where he had a cot and a stack of blankets. The hatchling curled up on one of the blankets, tucking its tail around itself. Its small wings twitched as it slept, and Jax couldn't help but notice how delicate it seemed, almost fragile. He sat in his chair, watching it. Something deep inside him stirred. He had always been a loner, content to fix machines and keep to himself. But this little creature seemed to need him, and for some reason, he felt a responsibility he hadn't expected. The next morning, Jax woke to a soft tapping sound. He blinked and saw the hatchling standing on his workbench, its eyes wide and curious. It cocked its head, watching him as if trying to understand what he was doing. "You hungry again?" Jax asked, reaching for another ration pack. The hatchling chirped softly and moved closer. It seemed to understand him. A little, in its own way. Over the next few days, the hatchling stayed with him. It followed him around the workshop, observing as he repaired engines and machines. Jax was amazed by how quickly it learned. It seemed to understand basic tools, even nudging wrenches and bolts toward him when he dropped them. Sometimes it would paw at a panel or tap on a console, and Jax would swear it was trying to help. Word started to spread quietly through the colony. Some people whispered about Jax's pet dragon, Others laughed and said he must be imagining things. Jax didn't care. He was too busy marveling at the creature's intelligence. One evening, as he worked on a damaged shuttle engine, the hatchling climbed onto the control panel. Its small claws moved over the buttons and switches, and to Jax's shock, the engine purred softly, responding to its touch. "Wait, what did you just do?" Jax whispered, leaning closer. The hatchling chirped, looking proud of itself. Jax couldn't believe it. The little dragon had just fixed the engine. For hours, he watched it, testing small circuits and broken parts. Every time, the hatchling seemed to know exactly how to help. It was as if it could sense the machine's needs. Jax felt a mix of awe and disbelief. Humans were clever, yes, but here was a creature, barely hatched, that could intuitively understand technology in ways he never thought possible. That night, Jax sat in his chair, the hatchling curled up on his lap. "You're something else, you know that?" he said softly. "I don't know where you came from, or why you're here, but I guess we'll figure it out together." The hatchling made a soft, happy sound, nuzzling his hand. Jax smiled. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel so alone. Over the next week, he began to notice other strange things. The hatchling's scales glowed faintly when it was excited or curious. Small sparks danced across its wings when it flapped them, enough to give a tiny static shock if he touched it. And once, when he accidentally cut his hand on a metal shard, the hatchling nudged it gently, and the wound seemed to sting less, as if it was somehow helping him heal. Jax shook his head. "You're not just a pet, are you?" The hatchling chirped again, blinking up at him with wide, intelligent eyes. Jax didn't know what kind of creature it was, some kind of alien dragon species, perhaps long thought extinct. Whatever it was extraordinary. And somehow, he had found it. That night, as he lay on his cot and the hatchling curled up beside him, Jax felt a strange sense of destiny. He didn't know what the future held: danger, adventure, or discovery. But he knew one thing for certain. He wouldn't abandon this little creature. Not now. Not ever. And in the dark, quiet scrapyard, amidst the hum of engines and the smell of oil, a tiny dragon hatchling had found a home. Days passed, and the hatchling became a constant companion for Jax. It was no longer just a tiny, helpless creature eating scraps. It was curious, clever, and surprisingly brave. Jax noticed that it seemed to understand more than he expected. When he worked on engines, it would sit nearby, watching intently, sometimes chirping or tapping with its claws. Every time he glanced over, it seemed to be learning. One morning, Jax was repairing a transport drone when the hatchling did something remarkable. It climbed onto the engine console, its small claws brushing over wires and circuits. Sparks flew faintly from its tail, but instead of damaging anything, the engine whirred to life with a smooth hum. Jax blinked in disbelief. "Wait, what did you do?" he asked, leaning closer. The hatchling tilted its head and let out a soft, proud chirp. Its eyes glimmered with intelligence, and Jax suddenly realized something important. This little creature wasn't just clever. It had a natural ability to understand machines. It could sense their problems, almost like it could feel them. Over the next few days, Jax experimented quietly. He set out broken parts, damaged circuits, and malfunctioning devices. And each time, the hatchling would approach, examine them carefully, and somehow make them work. It wasn't magic, at least. Jax didn't think it was. It was something else, something he didn't yet understand. Curiosity began to get the better of him. He spent evenings studying the hatchling, noting how it interacted with different tools. It seemed particularly fascinated by energy sources, small batteries, power cells, even the colony's low-voltage grid. When it touched them, faint sparks ran along its scales, and the cells seemed to hum with renewed power. One evening, As the artificial sun set, Jax sat with the hatchling perched on his shoulder. "You know, I've fixed hundreds of machines," he said softly, "but I've never met anyone, human or otherwise, who can do what you do." The hatchling cooed softly, nudging his hand. Its warmth seemed comforting, almost human in its understanding. Word about Jax's dragon pet began to spread through the colony. Most people were skeptical. Some laughed, calling it a hoax or a rumor. Others were more cautious, wondering if the creature might be dangerous. Jax ignored the gossip. The hatchling had never acted aggressively, and he trusted it completely. But not everyone in the colony was so trusting. One afternoon, a group of children approached the workshop. They had heard rumors and wanted to see the hatchling for themselves. Jax hesitated, worried that too much attention might be dangerous. "Stay back," he warned gently. "It's not a toy." The children ignored him at first, pressing closer to catch a glimpse. The hatchling, small but alert, lifted its head and let out a soft warning chirp. Sparks danced lightly along its tail, and the children jumped back in surprise. Jax smiled, realizing just how protective it had become. "See," he said. "It's smart. It knows how to defend itself." As the days passed, Jax began to notice another strange thing. The hatchling's energy seemed to grow stronger. Its small wing, once drooping and weak, began to flap with more strength. Its scales glowed faintly in different colors depending on its mood. Green when calm, golden when excited, and a soft blue when curious. Jax was fascinated. One night, a sudden alarm blared through the colony. Jax rushed to the window and saw a maintenance drone sparking and smoking nearby. Without thinking, he grabbed a tool and ran outside. But before he could reach it, the hatchling leapt from the workshop ledge, hovering in the air as if gravity barely affected it. Sparks ran along its claws and tail, and the drone's smoke cleared as it began to function again. Jax's jaw dropped. You saved it," he shouted. The hatchling chirped happily, spinning in the air and landing gracefully on his shoulder. Jax realized that its abilities weren't limited to simple machines. It could manipulate energy itself. This was no ordinary creature, it was something extraordinary. He spent the following days experimenting carefully. He discovered that the hatchling could amplify power cells, repair complex engines, and even shield him from small electrical surges. Its intelligence was astonishing. But what amazed Jax most was its instinctive understanding of human technology. The hatchling didn't need instructions. It seemed to know what to do naturally. As Jax worked alongside the hatchling, he noticed changes in himself too. He felt more confident, more focused. Machines that had once frustrated him were now easier to repair. He began to understand patterns in energy flow, circuits, and engine design in ways he never had before. Somehow, the hatchling's presence was helping him, just as he helped it survive. But not everyone viewed the hatchling as a miracle. One evening, as Jax returned from gathering parts, he noticed a shadow outside his workshop. He squinted and saw a sleek hovercraft parked nearby, with two figures stepping out in dark uniforms. They carried devices that glinted under the colony lights. "Who are they?" he muttered. Before he could react, one of them spoke through a small communicator. "We are authorized agents of the Galactic Research Corporation. We have reason to believe you are harboring an alien specimen. Specifically, a rare dragon hatchling. It must be secured for study and containment." Jax felt a surge of anger and fear. "You've got the wrong person," he said firmly. "This hatchling belongs here. It's not dangerous, and it's not going anywhere with you." The agents ignored him and stepped closer. The hatchling hissed softly, its wings rising slightly as sparks danced along its tail. Jax could feel its tension, its protective instincts kicking in. "I said back off," Jax shouted, grabbing a nearby wrench. The agents paused. One of them tried to reach for the hatchling, but before he could touch it, The creature shot a sudden burst of energy from its claws. The agent's electronic device sizzled and shut down. The other agent stumbled back, eyes wide in shock. Jax couldn't help but laugh nervously. Okay. Maybe you are dangerous if threatened, he muttered. The hatchling chirped proudly, tilting its head as if to say, I told you so. That night, Jax fortified his workshop. He rigged simple alarms, improvised traps, and made sure the hatchling had a safe place to hide. They had no idea if the agents would return. But one thing was clear. Someone wanted the hatchling, and they would not give up easily. Despite the looming danger, Jax felt a strange sense of hope. He had discovered something amazing, a creature that was intelligent, brave, and capable of extraordinary things. It wasn't just a companion. It was a partner. And together, they could face whatever came next. The hatchling, curled up on a blanket, nuzzled against his arm. Jax stroked its scales gently. We'll be okay, he whispered. I don't know what's out there, or what they want, but I promise, I'll protect you. And as the artificial sun rose over the colony, bathing the scrapyard in pale orange light, Jax realized that his life had changed forever. The small, homeless dragon that had begged for food had become the center of a mystery, a miracle, and perhaps the beginning of something greater than he could ever imagine. For the first time, he didn't feel alone in the vast, mechanical orbit of the colony. Together, he and the hatchling were ready for whatever the universe might throw at them. The night air was thick with tension as Jax Lorne worked in his scrapyard workshop. The flickering lights from the colony towers cast long shadows, and the faint hum of engines made everything feel alive. He glanced at the hatchling, curled up on a blanket near his workbench, its small eyes following every movement. He could feel the creature's unease, the way it twitched its tail and lifted its tiny wings slightly. Jax knew the Galactic Research Corporation agents would return. They were not the type to give up easily, especially when it came to a rare alien specimen. And this hatchling, small, vulnerable, but extraordinary, had already proven it could be dangerous if threatened. He sighed and rubbed his face. All right, buddy. Looks like we're going to have to get serious about this. The hatchling chirped softly, almost as if it understood. Jax began preparing. He scoured the scrapyard for materials: old metal sheets, spare wires, discarded energy cells. He rigged simple alarms, motion sensors, and even improvised traps. But more than that, he worked on plans that required quick thinking and creativity, his human ingenuity, combined with the hatchling's surprising abilities. By the time the artificial sun began to rise, the scrapyard looked like a maze of defenses. Jax stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow. Not bad. Huh? Let's hope we won't have to use it all. The first sign of trouble came just after midday. A shadow passed across the wall of his workshop too fast to be human. Jax froze, scanning the area. Then he saw it. A sleek hovercraft hovering low over the scrapyard, its landing lights scanning for life forms. 2 agents were on board, equipped with gadgets that could detect heat signatures and movement. Jax crouched behind a stack of crates, whispering to the hatchling. Stay low. Don't make a sound. The hatchling, surprisingly obedient, flattened itself against the blanket. Its small claws glowed faintly as energy built up along its tail. Jax smiled quietly. They had trained, in their own way, for this moment. The agents stepped off the hovercraft and began moving cautiously, their sensors scanning for any sign of the creature. Jax watched their movements carefully. Every footstep, every glance, every gesture, he noted it all. His heart pounded, but his mind was clear. This was a challenge, and he was determined to protect the hatchling at all costs. Suddenly, one of the agents noticed something, a faint glimmer from the hatchling's scales, reflected in the sunlight. There! He shouted, pointing toward Jax's workshop. Jax held his breath. The hatchling hissed softly and twitched its wings. Sparks flickered along its tail. Without thinking, Jax activated one of his traps. A series of wires connected to a small energy cell. A low hum filled the air, and a sudden burst of light flashed, startling the agents. "Blast shields!" one of the agents shouted, pulling back. The hatchling seized the moment. It leapt from the blanket, landing on the nearest console. Sparks flew as it tapped the panel, and the workshop lights flickered wildly. Small machinery whirred to life, scattering tools and creating chaos. Jax used the distraction to move, guiding the hatchling toward a hidden exit at the back of the workshop. "Come on," he whispered urgently. They slipped through the narrow corridor between the scrapyard platforms, moving quickly but quietly. The agents regrouped, scanning the area with more powerful sensors. "They're escaping," one shouted. "Lock down the perimeter." The chase began. Jax and the hatchling darted through the maze-like corridors of the colony, using shortcuts and hidden pathways that only he knew. The hatchling flew short distances when necessary, its tiny wings flapping with surprising strength. Sparks danced from its claws and tail, creating small bursts of energy that disrupted the agents' tracking devices. At one point, they reached an old maintenance elevator shaft. Jax glanced down. The drop was risky, but it was their only chance. "Hold on tight," he said, gripping the hatchling close. They leapt together, landing safely on a lower platform. The hatchling chirped excitedly, as if congratulating them both. Jax allowed himself a brief smile. "You're amazing, you know that?" But there was no time to celebrate. The agents were relentless, moving faster now, their hovercraft weaving through the colony platforms. Jax needed a plan, something clever that only a human mind and a dragon hatchling could pull off together. He spotted a pile of old energy cells and scrap metal nearby. An idea formed. "All right, this might work, but it's going to be tricky." He guided the hatchling to the pile. "I need you to do what you did with the engines. Okay? Just touch them gently. Let your energy flow through." The hatchling chirped, understanding. Its claws brushed over the cells, sparks flowing along its tail. Jax connected a few wires from the cells to a nearby panel. A surge of energy pulsed through the pile, creating a small electromagnetic field. The agents' sensors went haywire. Their devices beeped frantically, and the hovercraft wobbled slightly as if resisting some invisible force. "Now!" Jax shouted. They dashed toward a maintenance corridor, moving faster than the agents could keep up. The electromagnetic pulse delayed their pursuit, buying them precious seconds. The hatchling, exhilarated, flapped its wings and emitted tiny bursts of energy, creating a dazzling display of sparks that lit up the corridor. Finally, they reached a hidden part of the colony, an old storage bay that had been abandoned for years. Jax quickly barricaded the entrance with metal crates and debris. They were safe, at least for now. Jax sank to the floor, breathing heavily. The hatchling curled up beside him, exhausted but alert. "We did it," he said, smiling despite the adrenaline. "You saved us." Again. The hatchling chirped softly, nuzzling against his arm. Its small body radiated warmth, and Jax could feel its energy pulsing gently, like a heartbeat. It wasn't just a creature. It was a partner, a friend, and a protector. Over the next few days, Jax and the hatchling stayed hidden. He scavenged for supplies, repaired damaged circuits, and strengthened their hideout. The hatchling explored the area, cautiously but curiously, its intelligence growing with each passing day. Jax couldn't help but marvel at the creature's abilities. It could sense danger, understand complex machinery, and even anticipate his movements. It was as if the hatchling had a mind that worked alongside his own. Humans had survived in space for centuries through ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. And now, here was a being that complemented those traits perfectly. Despite the threat, Jax felt a growing sense of hope. He realized that the hatchling wasn't just a rare creature to be protected. It could be a key to something greater. If nurtured, trained, and understood, it could help humans survive in the harsh frontier of space, where danger lurked around every corner. One evening, as Jax and the hatchling rested in their hidden bay, he reflected on everything that had happened. The colony was full of machinery, people, and opportunities. But it was also full of danger. Corporations like the Galactic Research Corporation would stop at nothing to capture something extraordinary. But he wasn't going to let that happen. Not to the hatchling. He reached out and stroked its glowing scales gently. "We're in this together," he whispered. "No one can take you from me. Not them. Not anyone." The hatchling chirped in response, its eyes bright and alert. For the first time, Jax felt something he hadn't felt in years, a true partnership. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about trust, intelligence, and courage, the very things that made humans great. And now, those same qualities lived in this small, shining creature beside him. As the artificial sun dipped below the horizon once more, Jax looked at the hatchling and smiled. The future was uncertain, full of danger and adventure, but he knew one thing for certain. Together, they could face anything. And somewhere deep in the shadows, the agents of the Galactic Research Corporation were preparing for their next move, unaware that the tiny, homeless dragon they sought had already become something far more powerful than they could imagine. The hidden storage bay was quiet, save for the soft hum of machinery and the occasional drip of water from the ceiling. Jax Lorne sat cross-legged on the floor, staring at the hatchling. Its scales glimmered faintly under the dim lights, a soft gold that pulsed with each small movement. In the days since their escape from the Galactic Research Corporation agents, the bond between them had grown stronger. Jax studied the hatchling carefully. He had seen it do remarkable things, repairing engines, amplifying power cells, and even creating electromagnetic pulses to delay their pursuers. But tonight, he noticed something new. The hatchling's glowing scales seemed to flicker in patterns, almost like a code, and the warmth, radiating from its body, pulsed with a gentle rhythm. "Something's happening," Jax whispered. "I don't know exactly what, but it's more than I've seen before." The hatchling tilted its head, as if sensing his thoughts. It chirped softly and moved closer, brushing against a broken power relay. Sparks flew from its tail, and the damaged relay hummed to life, glowing brighter than before. Jax's eyes widened. You fixed that?" he asked. "Completely?" The hatchling chirped again, flapping its small wings. It seemed proud, almost as if it understood the significance of its actions. Jax leaned closer, examining the relay. Not only was it working, but it seemed stronger than it had been before, as if infused with a new energy. Over the next few hours, Jax conducted careful experiments. He placed damaged circuits, broken drones, and malfunctioning power units around the hatchling, observing its reactions. Each time, it approached with curiosity and a gentle touch, emitting small bursts of energy from its claws and tail. Machines that had been useless moments before hummed with renewed life. Jax could hardly believe it. "You're not just smart," he muttered. "You're amazing. You can actually enhance machines. You can repair them in ways I never thought possible." But the true revelation came when Jax accidentally cut his hand on a jagged piece of metal. He hissed in pain, staring at the blood. The hatchling reacted immediately, brushing its glowing tail over the wound. Jax felt warmth spread from the touch, and the pain eased significantly. The cut wasn't fully healed, but the sensation was astonishing. "You can help humans too?" he asked in disbelief. The hatchling chirped softly, nudging his hand. Jax realized something important. This creature wasn't just a helper. It had abilities that could change the way humans lived in the colony. Its understanding of technology and energy, combined with a natural healing touch, could make it a powerful ally. But more than that, it had instincts, intelligence, and empathy qualities that made it almost human in its understanding. The hatchling's growth was also surprising. Its small wings, once weak and drooping, now had strength. It could hover briefly, leap great distances, and even manipulate energy with precision. Jax marveled at how quickly it adapted, how its abilities seemed to expand with each passing day. He began to see patterns. The hatchling responded to machines almost instinctively, understanding what each one needed. If a circuit was overloaded, it would redirect energy. If an engine was damaged, it would find the weak points and repair them. And if danger approached, it could create defensive energy shields, small but powerful enough to protect them from harm. One morning, while testing a damaged drone, Jax watched in awe as the hatchling's eyes glowed softly. Sparks ran along its claws and tail, and the drone began to move, fully functional. But something unexpected happened next. The drone lifted off the ground, hovering steadily. Jax realized the hatchling wasn't just repairing it, it was enhancing its performance. The drone's motors hummed with more power than they had ever had. This is incredible, Jax whispered. He leaned closer to the hatchling. You can improve machines beyond their limits. You're revolutionary. The hatchling chirped proudly, tilting its head. It seemed to understand the compliment, and Jax felt a strange warmth of connection. Humans were clever, adaptable, and resourceful qualities that had allowed them to survive in space for centuries. And here, in this small, shining creature, he saw those same qualities reflected. The hatchling's intelligence, courage, and empathy complemented his own, forming a partnership that was greater than the sum of its parts. But the revelation came with responsibility. Jax knew the Galactic Research Corporation would not give up. They would return, stronger and more determined. The hatchling's abilities, while extraordinary, made it a target. Jax needed a plan to protect it, not just from capture, but from the danger that came with its power. He began constructing a more secure hideout within the storage bay. Using scrap metal, energy cells, and old machinery, he created barriers, alarms, and protective shields. He also trained the hatchling, carefully testing its abilities in controlled ways. He taught it to direct energy precisely, to control its sparks, and to use its abilities strategically. Over time, Jax noticed subtle changes in himself as well. Working alongside the hatchling sharpened his mind. He could see patterns in energy flow, anticipate mechanical failures, and solve problems faster than ever before. The hatchling's presence pushed him to be better, more focused, and more creative. It was as if they were teaching each other, learning and growing together. One evening, as they rested after a long day of experimentation, Jax reflected on everything that had happened. The hatchling had gone from a homeless, helpless creature begging for scraps to a being of remarkable power and intelligence. Its loyalty and trust were unwavering, and its abilities had already saved them more than once. "You're incredible," he said softly, stroking its scales. "I don't know what kind of future we have, but I know one thing. I'll protect you, no matter what." The hatchling chirped in response, curling up against him. Its body radiated warmth, and Jax could feel the steady pulse of its energy. It wasn't just a creature, it was a partner, a friend, and perhaps something more. The following days were filled with careful preparation. Jax scavenged for more materials, reinforced their hideout, and continued training the hatchling. They worked together seamlessly, each action reinforcing their bond. The hatchling's abilities grew stronger, more precise, and more controlled. Jax realized that with time, they could accomplish incredible things. But danger was never far away. Every night, Jax listened for the faint hum of hovercraft engines or the soft footsteps of corporate agents. He knew the Galactic Research Corporation would not give up. They were relentless, motivated by greed and curiosity, and they would stop at nothing to capture the hatchling. And yet, Jax felt no fear. The hatchling had proven its strength, intelligence, and courage. Together, they could face any threat. Humans had survived in space through ingenuity, resourcefulness, and determination. And now, with the hatchling by his side, Jax felt a renewed sense of purpose. One morning, while testing a damaged energy core, the hatchling displayed a new ability. Its claws emitted a steady, controlled glow, and the core began to repair itself. Not only that, but the energy output increased, stronger than before. Jax stared in amazement. You can enhance energy too," he whispered. The hatchling chirped proudly. Its eyes sparkled, reflecting the hum of the core. Jax realized that its abilities were limitless, as long as they worked together. It wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about potential, growth, and discovery. That night, as the artificial sun set over the colony, Jax sat with the hatchling curled up on his shoulder. He gazed at the dimly lit scrapyard below, thinking about the future. The world was full of danger, adventure, and uncertainty. But with the hatchling by his side, he felt ready for anything. "You're not just a hatchling anymore," he said softly. "You're a partner, a friend, and maybe even something more. Together, we can face anything." The hatchling chirped softly in agreement, nuzzling against him. Jax smiled, feeling a warmth that went beyond the glow of its scales. For the first time, he understood something profound. Humans were strong, brave, and clever. But together with beings like this hatchling, their potential was limitless. And somewhere deep in the colony, beyond the safety of their hidden bay, the agents of the Galactic Research Corporation were already planning their next move. But Jax and the hatchling were ready. They had discovered something extraordinary, not just power, but partnership. And that made them stronger than anyone could imagine. The colony was unusually quiet that morning. Jax Lorne stood at the entrance of the hidden storage bay. The hatchling perched on his shoulder. Its scales glimmered in soft shades of gold and green, reflecting the dim sunlight that filtered through the narrow openings. Today, he knew, would be the day the Galactic Research Corporation agents returned. "They won't give up," he whispered to the hatchling. The hatchling chirped softly, brushing its tail against his cheek. Its energy pulsed gently, a steady rhythm that reminded Jax of a heartbeat. Together, they had survived ambushes, traps, and the relentless pursuit of people who only saw the hatchling as a tool or trophy. But today, he hoped, would be the day their ingenuity and courage would finally pay off. Jax had spent the night preparing. The storage bay had been transformed into a fortress of ingenuity. Metal plates and scrap machinery blocked obvious entrances. Improvised energy traps were hidden in the shadows, and every weak point in the structure had been reinforced. Most importantly, Jax had trained the hatchling to use its powers precisely, not just to repair, but to protect, to distract, and to defend when needed. He crouched beside the hatchling. "Remember what we practiced," he whispered. "Stay calm, stay smart, and follow my lead. We can do this." The faint hum of engines reached their ears first. Jax peered through a small gap in the metal wall. The hovercraft was back, sleek and black, cutting through the morning mist like a predator. Two agents stepped off, scanning carefully, their gadgets detecting heat and motion. Jax felt the familiar tension in his chest, but steadied himself. "Time to show them we're not so easy to catch," he murmured. The agents moved cautiously toward the bay. Jax activated a hidden motion sensor, triggering a cascade of sparks from overhead wiring. The lights flickered, and a cloud of smoke hissed from a damaged vent. The agents froze, frowning at the unexpected obstacles. The hatchling flitted forward, tiny wings flapping as sparks ran along its claws. It landed on a console, nudging a control panel that set off a small but precise energy pulse. The agent's gadgets beeped wildly, malfunctioning under the controlled interference. One agent cursed and stepped back. "Move carefully," Jax whispered to the hatchling. It chirped in acknowledgement and hovered nearby, ready to act. As the agents pressed forward, Jax guided the hatchling through a series of traps he had set. Wires that delivered harmless but startling shocks, panels that created temporary energy barriers, and hanging scrap that swung to block their path. Each time, the hatchling used its abilities to enhance the traps, timing bursts of energy with perfect precision. The agents were frustrated. They had come prepared for a small creature, not an intelligent, strategic partner working alongside a human. Every move they made was anticipated, countered, and delayed. Jax felt a rush of pride. The hatchling wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Suddenly, one agent activated a grappling device, aiming to capture the hatchling mid-flight. Jax reacted instantly. "Now!" he shouted. The hatchling shot a concentrated burst of energy from its tail. The device sparked and short-circuited, sending the agent stumbling back. Jax used the moment to trigger a small EMP he had rigged earlier. Lights flickered across the bay, and the agent's equipment malfunctioned completely. Jax and the hatchling moved quickly through a side corridor, a path known only to him. The agents scrambled after them, but their gadgets were useless. Their advantage lost. The hatchling hovered alongside Jax, its energy pulsing gently, ready to defend or assist as needed. They reached a large maintenance elevator. Jax activated it, and the platform began descending slowly to the lower levels of the colony. The hatchling hovered beside him, its eyes glowing softly. As they descended, Jax looked around at the flickering lights and scattered machinery. This was no ordinary hiding place. It was a fortress of human creativity, enhanced by the hatchling's extraordinary abilities. The agents, realizing they were losing, regrouped at the upper level. Their hovercraft moved to cut off escape routes, but Jax had anticipated this. He had prepared a series of energy-dispersing panels along the lower platforms. The moment the agents tried to follow, the panels activated, creating a dazzling display of light and energy that temporarily blinded their sensors. "Almost there," Jax whispered. The hatchling chirped softly, its wings flapping with controlled precision. When they reached the lower level, Jax led the hatchling to a narrow maintenance tunnel, a place too small for the hovercraft to follow. The agents tried to pursue, but the tunnel's walls blocked them. Jax slowed down, listening. The faint sounds of frustrated shouts and clanging metal echoed behind them. He allowed himself a small smile. "That's it," he whispered. "We're safe. For now." The hatchling landed on a pipe above the tunnel, its tail glowing faintly. Jax watched it, marveling at how far they had come. This tiny creature, once homeless and weak, had become a partner, a protector, and a source of extraordinary power. Together, they had outsmarted humans who thought they were in control. For the first time, Jax felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Humans had always relied on ingenuity, courage, and quick thinking to survive in space. But now, he realized, it wasn't just humans who could innovate and protect it. It was beings like this hatchling, working alongside them. Their combined abilities were more powerful than either could achieve alone. Days later, the colony began to notice changes. Rumors spread about the Humyn and the dragon that had evaded the corporation's best agents. Some dismissed it as a story, others were curious, but no one could dispute the fact that something remarkable had occurred. Jax and the hatchling continued their work in the hidden bay. They repaired old machinery, enhanced energy cells, and experimented with the hatchling's powers. Each day, their bond grew stronger, their abilities more refined. Jax realized that this partnership was more than survival. It was innovation, growth, and the promise of a future where humans and extraordinary beings could work together. One evening, as the artificial sun set over the colony, Jax sat beside the hatchling. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" he said softly. The hatchling chirped and nuzzled against his shoulder. "I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing. We're ready for it." The hatchling's scales glowed faintly in response, a sign of trust and understanding. Jax smiled, feeling a warmth that went beyond the light. They had faced danger, outsmarted powerful enemies, and discovered extraordinary abilities in one another. But most importantly, they had done it together, a testament to human ingenuity, compassion, and the strength of partnership. And somewhere high above, the agents of the Galactic Research Corporation regrouped. They would not give up easily. But they underestimated the bond between Jax and the hatchling, the combination of human creativity and extraordinary power. For as long as they remained together, they were unstoppable. Jax stood and stretched, looking out at the scrapyard bathed in soft orange light. "We've got a lot to do," he said. "Machines to fix, challenges to face, and a world to explore. But I wouldn't want to do it with anyone else." The hatchling chirped happily, flapping its wings. Sparks ran along its tail in a controlled, playful display. It was ready. Together, human and hatchling stepped out of the shadows, ready to face the universe. Not as hunter and hunted, not as weak and strong, but as partners equals, united by trust, courage, and the promise of extraordinary adventures. In the quiet scrapyard, amidst the hum of engines and the glow of energy, a new legend was born. The homeless dragon hatchling had found a home, and the human mechanic had found a friend, a partner, and a reminder of what humans could achieve when they acted with ingenuity, compassion, and courage. And so, in a small corner of the orbiting colony, they thrived together, a human and a dragon, bound by trust, respect, and extraordinary abilities. A partnership that no one could break, a story that would be remembered, and a promise that the universe had much more to reveal.